The ferry horn sounded once, long and indifferent, and then the white hull was simply gone, a shrinking shape dissolving into the blue that separated Amalfi from the rest of the world. Celia stood on the dock with her sketchbook pressed flat against her chest and her rolling bag tilted behind her like a loyal, useless dog. 3 weeks on the coast, 40 pages of blank paper, one mediocre drawing of a ceramic dish that she'd torn out and left in the harbour bin that morning. The creative residency had given her all the beauty she could look at and none of the courage to touch it. She turned back toward the harbour steps. The midday sun hit the stone so hard it almost hummed. Around her, Amalfi moved in its compressed vertical way, motorbikes threading through pedestrians, someone's laundry catching a salt-threaded breeze 3 floors up, the smell of diesel and espresso tangled together over the wet pier ropes. All of it beautiful, none of it hers. The next ferry was 4 hours away. She looked at her phone, then at the sketchbook, then at nothing.
You missed it by 90 seconds.
Said a voice beside her. Not unkind, just accurate. The man leaning against the dock railing was maybe 35, wearing a linen shirt the colour of the sea foam where it reached the rocks. He had a guide's lanyard around his neck and dark eyes that seemed to be in the middle of solving a problem they found mildly interesting.
I know,
Celia said.
You ran. I saw you from the top of the via. You were close.
thank you for that summary.
He smiled. It was a specific kind of smile, the kind that had learned to be charming without deciding to be. He pushed off the railing and extended a hand.
Luca, I run the private coastal walks for the hotel. You were on my list this morning, but I had a cancellation.
Celia, I was on my way home.
The 4 o'clock runs late this time of year. You have time.
She almost said no. She was practiced at no, at keeping her schedule clean so no one could see how little she was filling it with. But the sketchbook in her hands felt like an accusation, and the dock was hot, and Luca was already gesturing up the cliff road with the easy authority of someone who knew exactly where his feet would land. She followed him. They took the road above the main path, narrower, where the cliff pressed in close enough to graze a shoulder. Below, the sea went on in every direction it could think of. Luca walked 2 steps ahead, which she appreciated. No forced eye contact, no obligation to perform wonder. He named things as they passed, not tour guide facts, just names. That fig tree, 20 years older than the road beside it. That wall, rebuilt after the 1954 landslide. That particular blue in the water between 2 headlands, which had no official name, but which he had always thought of as a specific shade of wanting to stay.
You grew up here?
My grandmother's house was 2 kilometers back from that ridge. I left for university, Naples, then Rome. Came back when she died. That was 3 years ago. I keep thinking I'll leave again.
But
He looked sideways at her, one of those glances that takes in more than it admits to.
But the light is different here than anywhere else I've lived. I can't explain it well enough to stop looking at it.
Celia opened her sketchbook without thinking, then closed it. Old reflex. Touch the paper, retreat. She'd been doing it for 8 months, since the last project fell apart and the work started feeling like impersonation. Luca noticed, of course he noticed, it was his job to notice, but he said nothing. They walked. The grove was not on any map she'd seen. The entrance was a break in a dry stone wall, half hidden by a sprawl of wild rosemary, and beyond it, the ground dropped into a terraced hollow where lemon trees grew in rows so old their trunks had gone silver. The smell hit her before her eyes adjusted. Sun-warmed citrus, green and cool beneath it, something deeper underneath that she couldn't name, but that felt like a held breath finally let go. She stopped walking.
what is this?
My grandmother's grove. Technically, my cousin manages it now. I have visiting rights.
He said it lightly, the charm deployed on schedule, the quick deflection, but his hands had gone still at his sides, which they hadn't been all morning. Celia walked forward into the dappled light. The trees were heavy with fruit, lemons too large and irregular to be commercial, hanging among leaves that filtered the afternoon into something gold and slow. A hot stone terrace at the far end, with 2 old chairs and a view of the water through a gap in the cliff. Below that gap, 300 meters of open air. She sat down in one of the chairs. She opened the sketchbook. Her hand moved. Not much, the line of a branch, the weight of a lemon where it bent the limb below it, but her hand moved, and the line was honest, and she did not tear it out. Luca sat in the other chair and was quiet, which was a different quality of quiet than she'd expected from someone who talked as easily as he did. He was looking at the sea gap. His jaw had shifted into something less performed.
You don't bring tour groups here,
She said. Not a question.
No.
Why me?
He looked at the grove instead of at her.
I scattered her ashes here, last October. Just me and a bottle of her wine and the sound of the trees. I haven't brought anyone since. I kept thinking the person would have to earn it somehow, and I couldn't decide what that meant. And then you were standing on the dock, looking at your sketchbook, like it had said something unforgivable to you.
The cicadas were loud. A gull crossed the cliff gap and was gone.
I haven't drawn anything real in 8 months.
Celia said. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. I look at beautiful things and I feel nothing land, like the image passes through me without catching. I thought coming here would fix it, and it hasn't, and I have 3 weeks of empty paper to show for a residency grant.
What's on the page right now?
She tilted the sketchbook toward him. The lemon branch, the weight of the fruit, 2 or 3 loose lines suggesting the stone terrace, rough, unfinished, real. Luca looked at it for a long time.
That's not empty.
She almost argued. Instead, she looked at it with him. The afternoon settled. She drew while he spoke, and he spoke differently here than he had on the road, slower, without the guide's easy authority, finding words the way you find them when you're not performing them. His grandmother's hands, the way she peeled a lemon in one unbroken spiral and hung the peel on the branch to dry. The Roman apartment he'd given up, the job he'd thought he wanted, the grief that had arrived not as a sudden blow, but as a slow rearrangement of everything he'd thought was certain. At some point, Celia turned to a new page and began drawing him, his profile against the sea gap, the angle of his shoulder, the particular stillness he fell into when he forgot to be charming. She worked fast, the way she used to work before the drought, without asking permission, without second-guessing, because the line was there and her hand knew what to do with it. She didn't notice him looking until she felt the warmth of him leaning slightly in.
Is that me?
Hold still.
He held still, and then, with the grove quiet around them and the sea holding its long horizontal light, he reached over and pressed his lips to her wrist, the one still resting on the open notebook. Unhurried, deliberate, a question shaped like a statement. Celia's hand stopped moving. She looked at him. He looked at her. The lemon trees shifted in a breath of wind off the water, and the light changed. That particular Amalfi light he'd said he couldn't stop looking at, and she understood, suddenly and without drama, that something had caught. She turned her hand over and held his. The 4 o'clock ferry left without her. She knew before she checked her phone. She didn't check her phone. They walked back down through the grove as the evening shadow climbed the cliff face, and the village below them lit up in its layered, haphazard way. Yellow windows, a restaurant stringing outdoor lights, the harbour lanterns going on one by one. Somewhere a scooter protested a steep corner. Church bells counted a number she lost track of. At the point where the path forked, one way back toward the harbour, one way deeper into the old town, Celia stopped.
I can find another ferry in the morning.
Luca looked at her. That glance again, the one that took in more than it admitted.
There's a stairway behind the cathedral. 93 steps, most of them original 12th century stone. At the top you can see 3 coves at once. I've been past it 100 times without ever painting it. I thought you might want to.
Celia looked down at the sketchbook under her arm. She turned to the next clean page. It was white and waiting, and it did not feel like an accusation anymore.
What time?
Early, before the tour groups. Espresso first. I know a place that opens at 6.
6.
She said. She did not close the sketchbook. She walked toward the harbour with it open, the blank page catching the last of the lemon light, and for the first time in 8 months, she was already drawing something in her mind before her hand had touched the paper.